educates, syncopates, radio communicates, radio, the sound of year-round pleasure.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Come Along Radio, the only show on the internet that covers the rich history and the sweet sounds of Japanese city pop. I'm Rocket Brown and I'm ready to get down. Once again, I've got Jay Canuck, the author of Kayo Kyoku Plus.
Hi there, this is Jay Canuck from Kayo Kyoku Plus from Toronto, Canada.
And I've got a very special guest with me. He is the main moderator of Neo Tokyo, a wonderful music community you should check out on Discord. This is Sanok. How you doing, Sanok?
I'm doing all right, thank you. That was a very sweet introduction. I'm doing very well. Hello.
Absolutely,
I'm Sanok.
Today we're going to cover a contemporary of Tatsuya Masta, a fellow bandmate even. You might know her as Taeko Ohnuki. She was a member of Sugar Babe with Tatsuya Masta in 1975, and when the band broke up, they all went their separate ways. Tatsuya Masta going to New York to produce Circus Town, and Taeko Ohnuki going her own route into the jazz fusion scene, and that culminated into the release of her second solo album, Sunshower, released in 1977. You might recognize Sunshower from the viral hit Summer Connection. Really awesome song. It's one of the staples of city pop music.
For me, when I first heard it, when I first heard Taeko Ohnuki, it was all basically her music from the early 80s with her techno pop and her baroque pop with Ryuichi Sakamoto. So listen to, so you can imagine that when I first listened to Sunshower and Summer Connection came on, it was a real revelation because it was such a very different song.
Very different.
Listening to it kind of felt like it was, I was kind of wondering what was Tokyo like in 1977 in the summer then. It was so inviting.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For me, that's like as a kid being introduced to Sonic. I guess I'm a gamer, obviously. Being introduced to Sonic Adventure, and then going back and playing the Sega Genesis games. Very different feel.
Well, originally I was introduced to Taeko Ohnuki through the wonderful medium of YouTube when it started recommending out city pop in mass around the time Plastic Love came out. I remember hearing 4 a.m. Eventually. Yeah, that one is an absolute dog. But I moved on. I was originally introduced to Sunshower because of the original City Pop community Discord.
Nice.
And Sunshower is a bit of a meme because the little window behind her gets memed a lot into a washing machine.
Right, yeah. Everyone thought it was a washing machine.
Yeah.
But I occasionally go out for long walks because I live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere, and Sunshower is definitely one of those albums that you pop on if you're on a walk on a nice summer
day, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed here.
Yeah, I would say sonically, yes. It's a very pleasant album. But there's a lot about Sunshower that I recently discovered that will blow you guys' mind. So, without further ado, let's get into the first song.
太陽の島溢れるリズムに乗り笑いを誘う写真が届く
Alright, so that was Summer Connection. Gotta love that song.
Mm-hmm.
Such a breezy tune, dude.
It's definitely got a great 70s sound to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like the twang of the guitar work.
True.
Like the sax and the brass. It just kind of has that aesthetic of the late 70s to it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Jazzy, uplifting. Everything sounds cheerful.
Yeah.
It's got a very exciting string arrangement.
And it's also probably the one Ohnuki song that I've ever heard where her voice just soars in the refrain.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that before.
It's very strange when you find artists where they sort of hit the notes, but they do it so softly. Like, she doesn't seem to have very much like of a harsh tone to her voice. She seems to just hits them, but with like this softness to it.
No, but I see. I like it, so I'm gonna. Yeah, I really enjoy. I really enjoy that about her voice. That's the thing.
Shows a lot of talent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I've listened to her music before and after Summer Connection, I mean, she has that somewhat of that really pure, almost like, without any blemishes, no rough spots in that delivery of hers. But so it is, truly kind of a surprise when you hear her just like kind of launch off like a rocket in the refrain there like that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think I've ever heard her doing anything like that since then. I think Summer Connection was that one song where she decided to really go off on a tangent with that voice of hers.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. I think it paid off.
One question for you guys is that there was a single version that was released in July.
Oh yeah,
July 5th,
single version is great.
1977.
The drums were
and
a
then
lot
the
more
album
lively.
version, which you just heard. Yeah, I mean, which one would you prefer? Do you prefer the single version or the album version?
I think it depends on my mood, though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the single version is great for working out because the drums are a lot more lively. There's a lot more attention on the brass, but I think the album version is just fine as it is. They took an already perfect song and then just made it even better. Yeah,
I mean, they had more people working on it, and I think the saxophonist, there was a bit more of him in there as well.
True.
Yasuaki Shimizu with his beefy saxophone in the album version.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's the thing. You can't go wrong with either version.
No, absolutely. Both of them were just great.
Mm-hmm.
狂ってるのは君だけじゃないんさ目を開いて人を見て
Alrighty, so that was Kusuri wo Takusan, which apparently translates to a lot of medicine. What did you guys think of it? What is your initial thoughts on the song?
For me, it was probably the most cheerful message song I've ever heard. Just about the whole thing about over medicating people in Japan, which I think is an issue. I think.
Oh dear.
But
yeah,
I think I mean, when I wrote about the song on the blog, I mean, I translated it into something a little bit more ominous. I just said, "Oh, a lot of drugs," basically.
Yeah.
So I thought, "Oh, okay."
I mean,
okay, I'll have the entire medical community coming after me from Japan, basically after that.
oh my god.
Yeah, no, it was just a really, really cheerful song talking
About drugs.
Yeah.
Specifically drug addiction, I should specify.
Especially in the 70s and 80s, it was a huge problem.
I think it had more to do with, at least this particular song, to my understanding, it had more to do with doctors and medical professions over prescribing people with medicine.
Yeah.
Cause
I see.
yeah, it's so weird because like you said, this is a very upbeat, like samba,
Yeah, very cheerful.
like samba song. And
Yeah.
it's just like arriba, you're just like
Yeah, the first time I heard it, it's like I read the title and I'm listening to the song and I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? And yeah, basically it's like, and even before I heard the song for the first time, I knew that there was this thing where a lot of doctors in the medical community in Japan were kind of like seen as overprescribing medicine for just about anything.
Really?
Whether it be like just a simple headache or a stomach ache or stuff. Oh, here's some medicine.
Wow.
Just pay at the pharmacy.
Well, is that still a problem today, or was it something that was majorly in the 70s?
I think it was still an issue when I was living in Japan from between the 90s to like 2011. To a certain extent, I'm not sure if things have changed since the 70s either way. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it was an issue. It was an issue when I was there.
Wow.
So I thought it was kind of like, okay, well, that's kind of quite perceptive. I thought of Taeko to talk about this.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it was quite a surprising song. just because I mean the song also kind of reminds me of a couple of other artists in America. So one was Billy Joel,
Really?
especially through. Well, there was a song that he basically titled, I think he named after his mother, Rosalinda's Eyes, which had that sort of kind of slightly Latin kind of New York sort of beat to it. And the other singer I was kind of thinking about whenever I hear Tsuruyo Takusan is Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell,
who,
okay.
Yeah, Joni Mitchell and Taeko Ohnuki has been, reportedly to be a really huge fan of Joni Mitchell's as well.
Wow.
So that's kind of like the kind of takeaway musically that I thought of, when I listened to this song especially.
Yeah, very, very upbeat song. Very hidden. I would say hidden message, but I mean, if you're obviously if you're in America, you just see us on YouTube. You're just like, oh hell yeah, Taku-san, oh Taku-san. I'm probably not gonna know better.
Oh.
Yeah, once again, amazing drum work. There was like a little cymbal being like tapped in your ear the whole time throughout the entire song. It's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
when you pick it up, you cannot hear it. Well, opposite, you can. You can't stop hearing it.
No, I get what you mean.
来る時を飲み干して荒れ果てた
Man, so that was Nani mo iranai. I don't need anything. And golly, that's probably my favorite intro to any song on this album. You got those violins coming in at the beginning. They're very ominous.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all leads up into the bass. Once that bass drops, man, that's when you know it's getting serious. And really, really epic song.
Catches your attention and keeps you there.
Yeah, it's just boom, and you just say, "Hey, let's go." This is the point where the tone of the album really sets in.
Yeah, when I first heard that song, I just thought of one person, and that was Shaft. I just thought this was the beginning of the coolest episode of Shaft when I heard those first several seconds of that song.
Hell yeah, dude! Oh my goodness! Yeah, it's got a very inner city feel to it. It's very epic.
Very distinct 70s sound to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think didn't you say that this was this done in Japan, or was this recorded in New York City?
No, this was recorded in Japan.
In Japan, okay.
Yeah, it's just they were able to get the drummer from Stuff, which is I believe
from New York. Yeah.
Yeah, they watched a concert in Tokyo with a bunch of jazz artists. It was the Rolling Coconut Review in Tokyo. Stuff was one of the bands performing there, and they reconnected with the drummer Christopher Parker, and we're like, hey, can we feature you on our album? He was like, sure. But yeah, it's definitely, you could tell they played a big influence on Taeko Ohnuki's compositions, because man, they're tough. This is a tough sounding song. Like there's some songs like. There's some songs that just sound tough. Like usually they have a deeper tone to them. Like when you listen to whenever you listen to like a Johnny Cash song, you know what I'm saying? It's just It's just a tough song. You know what I'm saying?
This one had brass knuckles to it, basically.
Yeah, and it's weird because Taeko Ohnuki's voice is so light, but it's just that beginning and the bass makes a world of difference, because it was just like, oof, like she's preaching about something, like she's talking to you, you know what I'm saying? And speaking of which, though, I had some trouble interpreting the lyrics when I was translating them. The way you put it in your article, Jay Canuck, it was like she was sort of rejecting her environment.
Yeah, and actually looking at the article right now, it's like I think. The strange thing is that the lyrics, there are only 7 lines for the entire song.
Right.
The lyrics are just 7 lines in there.
Mm-hmm.
But what I got out of it was she was rejecting the environment she was living in, and namely Tokyo. She just kind of wanted to have the rain just wash everything away, so that she can just start over again, basically.
Oh my gosh! You know what that reminds me of? Taxi. You ever seen You ever seen Taxi Driver?
Oh, Taxi Driver with De Niro. Yeah.
I need to.
Well, there's a line. Yeah. Well, there's a line that he says while he's driving at night in the rain, where he says like the monsters come out at night or the freaks come out at night or something, and he's like, one day a real rain is gonna come and wash away all the filth, and he's talking about like all of the dirty stuff that happens in the city, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, I think Taxi Driver came out. I think it could have been the same year as Sunshower. I think. Yeah, I think at the time, I think this is kind of echoing what Sanek said earlier. I mean, when I was living there, I think they had already enacted a kind of like an anti-yakuza bill in Parliament from '85. So basically, the presence of the gangsters is no longer as prevalent as it used to be. But I think before '85, I think there was a lot more of them, just openly walking around in Shinjuku, or the area in Shinjuku called the Kabukicho, back in the time show. Yeah, and so during those days, I think they were probably far more prevalent than they are now.
Damn, we're getting some deep stuff from this summary album. Supposedly.
It does. It seems that the lyrics themselves, although it sounds summary, the lyrics themselves don't seem to relate the same thing from what I'm hearing from the both of you.
Yeah, seems a bit darker, but I think in terms of the music itself, I have to point out, Tsugutoshi Goto with the bass.
Oh hell yeah!
And then also. And then jazz guitarist Kazumi Watanabe doing the solo in Nanimo Iranai.
That sounds appropriate. I feel like, especially Watanabe, I think he's really good at capturing sort of New York style jazz sound.
眠らない夜の街ざわめく光の洪水
Alright, so that was a song simply called City, or Tokai in Japanese. Very breezy, almost Stevie Wonder is track. Well, actually, you know what? I scratched that, because I say Stevie Wonder because apparently Stevie Wonder was a big influence on this song in particular. But for me personally, the melody and the arrangement, especially combined with the lyrics of the song, it gives me a lot more Marvin Gaye vibes. Particularly the song...
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, particularly the song... well, two songs. The Ecology, or Mercy Me, as people know it as, and Inner City Blues. Because, Marvin Gaye's album, What's Going On, was made in the same vein. It was, R&B, jazz, but it had a message, right? About, the troubles of life in the city. And this song is very similar. It's one of those songs. It's another one of those songs that's very deceptive. Starting to notice a trend here. Have you ever seen that meme where it's like the song and the lyrics, and then it's a picture of like a pretty like pink house next to a completely gothic black house. I actually know. Yeah, I actually know where that place is. It's in Santa Monica. I've been to those houses.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
it actually exists.
Yeah, it actually exists.
Yeah, and I think that whole thing about breezy music covering over some very dark lyrics is very Kaio Kyoku, kind of almost like a tradition, basically. I mean, even with the Sukiyaki song by Kyu Sakamoto,
True.
It was very very cheerful music, but the lyrics are quite a bit more melancholy. And I think with Tokai, I think that's probably the case as well. Especially with the I guess the last verse she sings, she's complaining about just how crowded Tokyo it is, and again certain areas of Tokyo which are not perhaps the nicest areas, such as Kabukicho back in the day. Yeah, I think she kind of again wants to kind of get that away from her system basically,
Right.
and just wants to someday leave Tokyo.
There's something very I guess the only word for lack of a better word, haunting about the vocals, because Taeko's voice is, I don't want to say monotone, but it's very steady throughout the track, and then you got the solo with the very it's a very ghost-like chorus playing.
Are you talking about that synthesizer that Yuji Sakamoto plays?
Well, yeah, it's followed up with the synthesizer, yeah, and then you've got the backing chorus in the background. It's very ominous. It's a very ominous song at that point.
Yeah, and supposedly it's like Tatsuro Yamashita and Ohnuki doing the background vocals for the song too.
Yeah, Tats is a backing vocalist on this album. I forgot.
そばには空っぽの椅子揺れ
Man, all right. So that was The Empty Chair, Karapo no Isu. It's a very sad and bluesy jazz ballad. This one definitely has a lot more Stevie Wonder vibes to it.
She has the way she sings it feels incredibly chilling. But then as soon as the instruments kick in, it almost has like this chill, like sense of like serenity to it. Like it's something you could lay back to and maybe like drink a beer with.
This does feel like a beer song.
Yeah.
You're looking at the
End of a
sunset.
long night.
Right.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'd probably upgrade the drink to maybe like sipping whiskey, perhaps. Almost.
No, not bad. Yeah, I agree. Fun fact though, this was actually Sugar Babe's last song. This was sung at their final concert in March 3rd, 1976.
And yeah, and I would think it's an entirely appropriate song to finish off. I guess the Sugar Babes days as a group.
Yeah, although it's a bit depressing considering A, their history, and B, it's a song about fighting loneliness and depression.
It did not age well.
Yeah, well.
So
yeah,
so not the highest note to end off of, but it is a great song. Definitely could see the chilling part. Really great saxophone solo.
Yeah. Again, Yasuaki Shimizu on the sax there. Just kind of very. I'm not. I guess maybe I can say it's almost like a New York solo. I would say.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It's done so well. And the funny thing is, a lot of the songs like this on this album, they would fit right in with the stuff I used to hear on the radio on like 94.7 The Wave, and it would fit so well. This is the type of sound I'm used to hearing on the local LA smooth jazz station, because they played a lot of black contemporary artists, but like Sade and whatnot, Luther Vandross, Brian McKnight, all that stuff. But they also played Carole King. They also played
Carole King,
a few Carole King hits. So Taeko Ohnuki with songs like, especially like City and Empty Chair, fit right in.
I mean, Karapo no Isu also kind of reminds me of like, there was the early days of Saturday Night Live. Whenever they ended the show, they always had the ending song, and there's always that saxophone, that really bluesy saxophone, to kind of like see everyone off out of the studio or so. And I think when I heard Shimizu's solo there, I thought, okay, it kind of feels like very much of an end to things, whether it be the end of Sugar Babe or the end of a concert, for example, or something there's a bit of a finality to it.
Right. Well, very appropriately so, because this is the end of the A side of the album, and we're gonna transition from jazz fusion to progressive rock. Let's see how that sounds. Oh yeah.
名 波打つ屋根と空の
Law of Nature. That was the first track of Side B, a sort of prog rock with some jazz instrumentation, very influenced by Todd Rundgren's Utopia.
Apparently, Ohnuki was a fan of the band as well.
Yeah, or they were.
Really?
Well, yeah, Sugar Babe's sound was very influenced by sunshine pop and early soft rock figures like Todd Rundgren, Fifth Avenue Band, the Rascals, that type of thing. I forgot? I don't know what album Utopia is from, but if you ever get a chance to listen to it, very similar. I do like this song a little bit. It's a lot more streamlined, a lot more pop oriented, but it's a pretty cool mixture of soft rock and progressive rock.
Great intro. I mean, as soon as I heard it, again, I mean, I didn't know about the Todd Rundgren connection until I took a look at the Wikipedia article on Sunshower. But again, I thought there was also that sort of Joni Mitchell feeling to it as well, especially with the song. She did a song in 1974 called "Help Me," and I thought there was a bit of that in there too, or so. Although I don't think Joni Mitchell was a progressive rock person, but per se or so. But
right.
I thought there was some connection. There was some sort of like melodic connection.
Okay. For me, I'm actually reminded of just as a prog rock fan myself, more so Jethro Tull. If you guys are familiar with Jethro Tull, just because they tend to blend sort of British folk rock with a lot of jazz progression and stuff like that, especially in their later albums after Aqualung, Thick as a Brick or Stand Up. There's a lot more jazz influence in their tracks. What did you think, Sonic? I agree.
I found
No, it was really...
this is what it feels like to be with the big boys.
You're good.
I would say that the song itself, the guitar actually sounded quite similar to the electric guitar used by Cassiopeia in Domino Line. I actually found.
Okay.
I thought that this sounded a little bit more jazz fusiony. Well, based on what I've listened to in jazz fusion.
Yeah.
Than Side A. Side A seemed a little bit more like summery and a little bit more melancholy with the more chill ones, but for this one it seemed a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more focused on the instruments. But most of the songs so far that we've listened to from Taeko Ohnuki, she seems to be able to I don't know how to describe, but jump her voice from like beat to beat perfectly, perfect pitch, and like perfectly be able to lay out the way she's feeling in the song as you listen to it. Like when it gets when the instruments are faster, she can have a lot more energy and boom to her voice, but when it slows down, her voice is drawn out a lot more. It becomes a little bit more spacey, I suppose is the word.
Yeah, I get you. You're right.
力のない者たちに
Okay, so that was Dadanno Tameni, also known as For Whom. For whom indeed? For whom is the song for? Well, according to Taeko Ohnuki, this is another song where I had some trouble sort of interpreting the lyrics. It's a very laid back Latin influenced jazz track, but also it's another one with a message. It's got if I were to just sort of sum up what I got from the song, it was the song's talking about people who lack control of their lives and are marginalized because of positions of power and stuff like that. Like because they're not in a position of power, their voices don't matter.
Nope, actually, workshop. I mean, when I did the article on the song itself, I actually kind of translated a small part of what she said when she did an interview for the Japanese music journal Music Steady back in '83. and I can maybe just kind of read that translation right from the blog itself.
Sure thing.
So, yeah. So, I mean, Ohnuki says, and I quote, "I feel that this is surely a cry from the disadvantaged. There are cases in which the world will truly not accept you unless you have status or prestige, and there are points there that I want to complain about. It's very difficult to press forward with what you want to do, so you tend to want to flee sometimes, but you don't know whether you will become happy or satisfied if you do so. So it's an extremely unstable time. This is the sort of song which illustrates how far you will push ahead stubbornly with what you are protecting," unquote.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
well, I guess in a way, this is kind of like her, kind of a, her form of healing music in a way.
Right. That's a very real sentiment that a lot of people have, especially in today's political climate in America and stuff like that. There's always a lot of talk about voices not being heard. Right. It is a very relevant song in that sense.
To me, it kind of the song feels like it's the kind of somber song that you would hear in a jazz bar, like at the end of the night.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost epitomized by Taeko Ohnuki's voice throughout the whole thing. She just keeps it soft, but yet it sounds like there's a sadness inside her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Yeah. And I think on the music part, there were parts of the melody that kind of reminded me of Vince Coraldi, the pianist who came up with all those great songs from Charlie Brown, from Snoopy.
Ah, I see. Nice.
The Peanuts series or so. And I think according to the liner notes, it was again, Sakamoto who was taking care of the Steinway piano when he was playing that. So.
Oh yeah, Sakamoto's pretty gold on those ivories, man. Really great, really great piano solo on this song. I actually like it a lot.
Yeah, and I think the following year he'd be handling all those synthesizers for Yellow Magic Orchestra.
Yes.
Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
1,000 Knives, 78.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
We'll get to
Right.
Sakamoto pretty soon.
逃げ水が走るよ
All right, so that was Silent Screamer. Wait a minute.
not quite her old bandmate's song. Kind of a different
Yeah.
animal there, right?
Same name, different tone.
Same school,
Yes.
different class.
That's correct.
It's interesting because Tatsuo's Silent Screamer is more like it's sort of embracing the nightlife, right, of the city. It's about a street racer, but then like this Silent Screamer, the person driving is trying to escape from the city.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like an anti celebrate the nightlife type of song. Just trying to kind of get away from the metropolis for a while.
Yeah, it's once again I'm noticing a theme here, but
yeah.
this is my favorite out of the sort of jazz rock numbers on this record. I think this does a better job at providing sort of that progressive rock fusion. I think the melody's a lot cooler, but I also think the arrangement is a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I thought the brass was great. I mean, and the trombone solo, I guess, by Shigeharu Mukai, and there was also the bass that starts things off by Tsukutoshi Koto.
Yep.
Just a great intro and to a great song.
Absolutely.
Well, it's got that beautiful, beautiful twangy bass.
Oh yeah.
The brass backs it up, and the entire song feels like it's designed around Taeko Ohnuki's voice and how she jumps from beat to beat.
Okay.
Like as you can tell, at one point it goes from being quite slow, and it just gets faster and faster as she speeds up the way she sings.
Absolutely.
黒い海の砂漠が
sorry, Dave. I can't let you play that next track.
That's the exact vibe I got from it. Sounds so alien.
Yeah.
Golly.
It was straight from the sci-fi.
Yeah, so that was
Sargasso Sea.
Sargasso Sea, excuse me.
Yeah.
Very.
Sounds like something from Dune.
Yeah, it's got a lot of new age vibes to it. It's weird because it's one of those songs where you're either lost in the middle of the ocean or you're lost in the middle of space.
Or you're lost in the middle of your mind or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, try to imagine if Sargasso Sea had been put right after something like Summer Connection.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my
Be a bit
god.
odd.
I probably need a brace for my neck with the whiplash I suffered on that one.
Yeah.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
What
yeah.
was Sakamoto's involvement in this song? Because it does sound very Sakamoto.
Yeah, this. You know what?
Well,
for all
that's the
for all
word.
we know, this could be a precursor to his stuff in like 1,000 Knives because it's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, according to the liner notes, Sakamoto took care of all of the instruments in there. He was on piano, he was on the ARP Odyssey synthesizer, and the Fender Rhodes. Just 3 instruments.
Ah, I see.
Now
Yeah,
it all makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mastermind reveals himself.
Yes. I thought it was kind of like it was like a premonition of where Taeko would be going in the early '80s with again working with Sakamoto on those albums during that time.
Good
But I
point.
thought, yeah, it's quite the departure from what we heard, especially on side A.
Here's the thing, though. Even though it's very different, it still fits. I don't think it breaks the immersion of the album. It feels like a natural progression, especially after Silent Screamer, where you're like it's a much more frantic song, and there's that build up at the end where with the trumpets and the horns, and then it goes into that sort of smooth jazz finish, and then you go into this song.
It's got very good pacing so far.
Yeah, it's like you hit the brakes on the car, and now you gotta reorient yourself. This song starts playing. Anyway.
Yeah, it's soothing in its own way. I mean, Dare no Tameni was also very soothing. This Sargasso Sea can be that way as well. Just kind of a different, almost like a different genre in a way.
Right. I think this song is appropriate way to do a sort of a subversion of your expectations. Because if you remember in my review of For You, I wasn't a big fan of Hey Reporter.
Oh, Hey Reporter?
Yeah, just because it felt like too much of a diversion of what I was already used to hearing on the album, or what I was used to hearing from Tasso in general. But I think Sargasso Sea is a song that still fits in line with what I would expect to hear from Taeko Ohnuki.
日は落ち長い影の風
Oh man, that was heavy. So
That was certainly a ride. It started off like it was something from Ryuichi Sakamoto's like movie catalog
Yeah.
of songs he composed, and then it just it went from that to being incredibly like melancholy and like almost quite sad, and then suddenly it started becoming more and more upbeat the more that Taeko started singing, and by
Right.
the end of it, it was just like in a jam session.
So, very appropriate enough, that's actually a really good description of it. So this song is called Furiko no Yagi, which, if I'm correct, directly translates to
Yeah.
Pendulum of the Goat.
Or Goat of the Pendulum.
Yeah, goat of the pendulum. God, coming up with anime titles now.
Yeah.
But
whatever that means.
so more accurate. So the more accurate English description of the title would be Pendulum of the Capricorn. So yeah. So I did.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I did some research, and the symbol for the Capricorn coincidentally enough, is a sea goat. He's like half goat, half mermaid. And we just came from a song about the Sargasso Sea. So it's kind of tying everything together. Yeah,
full circle.
Yeah, we're getting some celestial, messages here. And
it does give you a few hints about Sakamoto, because it almost it hints at his later career where he would become a film composer, but it also, with what you just mentioned about it, almost tying in with the Sargasso Sea. It's that section that you described almost reminds me a little bit more of his more surreal music that he did later on, like the one with I think it's called Idyllic Penguins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The more surreal and crazy stuff. Yeah. Art housey.
So this is the only song composed by Ryuichi Sakamoto, if I remember correctly, and the lyrics, if you break down the lyrics, long story short, it's very apocalyptic. Taeko's describing the grass is disappearing, the earth is being scorched. Yeah,
really light, upbeat stuff.
Well, I think if you're composing synthesizer music in 1977, when you're working with those synthesizers, that probably is about how it feels to compose with them, with how unreliable they are around that time.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like
the amount of effort.
Right, but here's the thing, though. I think that Pendulum of the Capricorn is probably one of the best closing songs. Not the best close I've ever heard in any album, because instead of being like this isolated, because usually for like closing numbers, a lot of people go for like some sort of ballad or some kind of sort of piano, but instead this song feels like a culmination of all the best parts of arrangements from previous songs. The opening is very similar to Nanimo Iranai. It's got that bass, but it also has some Latin percussion carried over from a lot of medicine. It's got that awesome jazz rock closing, that sort of cool prog rock solo towards the end. It's super epic, and it still retains a lot of that sort of jazzy flow in not just Ohnuki's singing, but also just in the melody. It's just a culmination of everything that's great about the entire album in the closing song, and for that, I think it's the best song on the album.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think Furiko no Yagi has kind of pretty much brings everything together, kind of ties it up into a nice little bow.
Yeah,
and I think again with your connection with Nanimo Iranai, I think again when we were talking about that song. That was all about. I made the reference to Shaft in terms of the soul and the funk.
Oh yeah.
Stuff. I think with Furiko no Yagi. Now, I mean, the first minute was Sakamoto's orchestra part, but then when it kind of jumped into the main song, I was kind of reminded not of Shaft, but also of. There was the spy character that actor Michael Caine was playing back in the 1960s, Harry Palmer, through movies like The Ipcress File or $1 Million Brain. And I thought the way the song sounded, kind of reminded me of that sort of like 60s spy caper type of theme or so for a lot of it.
See.
And then, but then it kind of again then it metamorphosized into a different direction. With the jazz and then the funk coming in at the very end there.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
It's an album that takes you on an adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one hell of a ride, because we went from summer, the summer's here. the breeze, you know, everything's great. To
the grimy streets.
Yeah, to the grimy streets.
The grimy streets, yeah.
To the end of the fucking world.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Yeah,
And beyond.
Space.
Yeah, I think
We're
the
going
last.
We've.
I think the last line on the track, as the music's fading out, Taeko Ohnuki goes, she said,
The goat ate the branch?
yeah, the goat ate the branch. Yagi wa sono, are o tabeta.
その枝を食べた。
Thank you. Sono era o tabeta, which the goat eats the branch. Which I don't know what that means, but it's very foreboding.
But isn't that the perfect secret phrase that a spy would say to another spy? The goat ate the branch.
I know, right? It's some secret messages and stuff. It's getting
Yeah,
it's getting
and then
spooky.
the counter message would be something like oh, the sheep are constipating the metal.
Sheep are constipated.
Okay, you have the microfilm? Okay.
I know, right? What's the password? The goat ate the branch.
Yes.
What?
Okay.
I'm not sure what the secret code was, but for some reason I want to buy this album.
I know, right? I know, right? It's subliminal messaging.
Yes.
God,
Yes.
they were right about. See, it wasn't rock music. It was Taeko Ohnuki Sunshower. It's poisoning the children.
There you go.
You play it backwards.
Japanese music that's contaminating our children.
Mm-hmm.
You play the song
Yeah,
backwards, and Taeko Ohnuki's like City Pop was a mistake.
Yeah.
Yes. City Pop is conspiracy. Pass it on.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, what a ride, man! What a ride. So, Sonic, what did you think of Sunshower?
Sunshower, I'm going to reiterate on what I said. It is an adventure that takes you from the sunny beaches to the grimy streets of New York or Tokyo,
Right,
perhaps. Probably Tokyo.
Mhm.
Probably Tokyo of everything that you've
likely,
been saying. It sends you straight to space and then back down into what sounds like a doomed world. It takes you all over the place. It almost feels like Taeko and Sakamoto sat together and were like, okay, let's test out what you can do and see what you want to do later on in your career.
Right.
And he's just like, I have a few ideas.
Right.
With what I know about Sakamoto's work and what I've heard from his work, is that I think he got quite a big say in this album, because it does feel like a lot of what he would do later on is in the album, or at least guided by Taeko Ohnuki.
Well, especially in the later half, I think a big part of what really makes the album for me is how each song composition feels so unique and it's so inspired, but also just how well the lyrics are crafted in a way that's like, because this is easy listening music. Usually when it comes to that type of stuff, especially in the early 70s, that kind of stuff was seen as like throwaway commercial music. But Taeko Ohnuki took it and made it a vehicle for sort of challenging a lot of the social norms in Japan at that time.
It does feel like a lot of every single song has its own well-crafted message that goes with the like how upbeat it is, or how relaxing it is, or how doomsday it is. The lyrics themselves seem to have an overall message towards the song.
Yeah.
Every song feels very well catered towards flowing into one another. It's not like
I agree.
Yeah, it's not like, as Canuck mentioned earlier, where like you start off with Summer Connection, you go straight into Sagoza Sea. You know,
Oh my God.
everything seems to go from upbeat and then slowly and slowly more and more chill, and then Doomsday, and then the beat builds back up.
You see, you say every
Lost
song.
song.
Yeah, well, you say every song, but I feel like Summer Connection is like the most innocent song on the album, and appropriately enough, it's the first one, right? Like, see, Summer Connection is bait. It's like, it's there.
It's the bait.
It grabs you and draws you in.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah,
So-
this is just you know, it's city pop. But then like, it slowly, it's like the iceberg. It's like Sunshower is a iceberg. It's like you've got the surface level, like, oh, city pop, jazz, it's funky, it's talking about summer, everything's good. And then the deeper you go down the iceberg, it just you're at the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like getting on the Titanic and then finding out it's just hit an iceberg.
Oh my god.
One song in.
I never went one song in.
And meanwhile, Taeko Ohnuki's just like rubbing her hands in evil glee or
I
something.
know, she's got that janky look on her. She's just rubbing her hands all maniacally. Yeah.
Yeah.
My god. For me, this is probably one of my favorite 70s albums. Everything on this album like fits. It flows together nicely. Individually, each song is still very unique, but together it just fits. Like, because some albums, all the songs could be good, but they don't necessarily fit with each other thematically or sonically. That's not the case with Sunshower, and the fact that it's able to accomplish that while tackling so many different variations of arrangements and genres, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and yet when it was first released, it didn't do all that well in terms of sales.
No,
But I guess it's something that has kind of garnered a lot of interest over the decades. Especially over the past decade.
yeah, I mean that's kind of the trend with a lot of city pop albums when you look at their history. That's unfortunate, but I'm very grateful that this album found a new life, not just on the internet, but just in general. Like I said, I don't think it's her most approachable album because it covers so much stuff, but I think it's produced in a way and it's arranged in a way where it's palatable for like casual listeners. Nothing goes super off the rails, but obviously not everybody's into prog rock or art pop or whatever. But I think there's a song for everybody on this album.
I would say probably like the first several of her solo albums are just great albums to go with, and again, Sunshower was a true revelation for me because until then I'd only known her for her early '80s stuff, which was all the the synth pop and the baroque pop,
Right.
that I kind of knew her for. And so I mean, especially Summer Connection was a huge revelation to me.
Yeah, I was introduced through Mignon, through 4 a.m., and then I went back and listened to Gray Sky and Sunshower and all that. I think Sunshower is an essential album for anybody's city pop collection. I think even if you're not a fan of city pop in general, I think this album crosses over into a lot of interesting musical corners to where I think everybody could find something to love about Sunshower. You could get it on Discogs, you could get it on Light in the Attic Records, which I would highly recommend, and I believe it's also on Spotify. Let us know in the comments below what album you guys want us to review next. Tell us your thoughts on the album. How did you interpret the lyrics? If you guys want to join in and listen into our album reviews live, then subscribe to Neo Tokyo today. It's a great music server, and we do partner broadcasts every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And thanks, Sanak, for hosting us as always, and also joining us for this awesome review.
Thank you. It was lovely to be here, and it's nice to know what it's like to be with the big boys of the reviews,
Oh my
the City Pop
gosh.
review scene.
Yeah.
Listen,
I'm blushing like an anime girl right now.
no, man, it's just, we're just music fans, man. I think I think it's important that we have these discussions on these albums, because it's one thing to sort of just digest the music casually, but because they're Japanese records, we tend to digest them differently than the native Japanese would. So I think taking the opportunity to sort of break down this, what these songs mean, and being able to compare them and relate them to the songs that we grew up with in the West, I think it's a really great opportunity. And I think it's a great way to sort of demystify a lot of these records and make them more approachable for people outside of Japan. So I think this is a really good opportunity for us, and I'm really glad you can join us, Sonic. But until next time...
Yeah, thanks very much, Sonic.
Yeah.
But got me blushing, thank you. It was lovely to be here.
Absolutely, it's lovely to have you as always. And as always, you're listening to Come Along Radio. I'm Rocket Brown.
And this is Jay Canuck from Kaioku Plus.
And this is Sanok from Neo Tokyo.
And we'll see you around.
Educates, syncopates, radio communicates.